Mies had always lived a quiet, ordinary life. His apartment was small, filled with books, gadgets, and the constant hum of his computer. He worked at a research lab that studied signals from distant stars, but outside of work, he had few friends. Most evenings he spent alone, staring at the night sky and wondering if there was anyone else out there, someone who could understand him. He never imagined that his life would change one quiet evening when an unexpected visitor appeared on his balcony. It was late, and the city was calm, the streets below glowing with soft lights. James had stepped out to get some fresh air when he saw a figure standing there, tall, lithe, almost shimmering under the moonlight. Her skin glowed faintly in silver-blue tones, and her eyes were like liquid mirrors reflecting the city lights. She seemed unreal. James froze. Hi?" he said cautiously. The figure smiled, a gentle, calm smile that made his chest tighten for reasons he didn't understand. "I am Lyra," she said in a voice that was soft but musical, almost like a song. "I am from Thalera. I need a friend?" James blinked. A friend? She was alien, clearly not from Earth, yet she looked at him with something like hope in her eyes. His first instinct was to laugh nervously. "A friend? Sure. I guess we can talk." Lyra's smile grew and she stepped forward, her movement smooth, almost floating. There was something mesmerizing about her, and James felt an odd calmness despite the fear bubbling in his stomach. He had spent years reading about extraterrestrial life, imagining first contact scenarios, but nothing had prepared him for standing face to face with a real alien. One that seemed almost gentle, almost human in curiosity. Over the next few days, Lyra visited often. She asked questions, simple and strange, about Earth, about humans, about him. James answered awkwardly at first, stumbling over words, unsure what she would think. But she didn't laugh at him, didn't judge. Instead, she listened with a patience that made him feel seen. One afternoon, as he showed her his collection of star maps and old telescope images, he caught her looking at him strangely, almost as if she could see deeper than his words. "Your thoughts. They are different," she said quietly. James laughed, brushing it off. "Different. I'm just normal, I think." Lyra tilted her head, her silver eyes soft. "Normal, yes, but also unusual. You feel many things you hide even from yourself." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. There was a strange comfort in it, but also fear. Did she really understand him? Did she know things he had never said? He shook his head, trying to dismiss it as imagination. Still, he felt drawn to her, as if some invisible thread had begun connecting them. On the 5th day, James returned home to find Lyra waiting on his balcony, the sky painted with stars. She held a small, glowing device that pulsed gently with light. "I am learning," she said. "Learning humans. Learning you." James's heart raced. He wanted to ask what she meant, but the words stuck in his throat. There was something unspoken between them, something that felt both exciting and dangerous. He realized he was beginning to care about her, not just as a visitor, not just as an alien, but as someone who had slowly become important in his life. And yet, a quiet part of him whispered a warning. He did not know her world, her rules, her culture. He did not know what it meant when she looked at him with those liquid silver eyes, as if she could feel everything inside him. That night, James sat alone, staring at the balcony where she had stood, his mind full of questions and a strange longing he could not name. Somewhere out there, an alien from another world had entered his life, and he had no idea that the very thoughts he tried to keep private would soon change everything, forever. The night was quiet, the city lights flickering far below when James and Lyra sat together on the balcony. She looked out at the stars with a soft glow around her, her silver eyes reflecting the tiny points of light above. James had never felt so aware of another being's presence. There was a strange energy in the air, something delicate and unspoken, like the moment before rain falls on dry earth. He tried to focus on the night sky, pretending his heart wasn't racing. He didn't know it yet, but Thalerans could sense more than words. They could feel the essence of thoughts, the emotions behind them. And that night, James's mind wandered, as it often did, into a quiet, hidden place he rarely let anyone see. "I hope she doesn't see how lonely I really am." He thought it quickly, almost ashamed, not realizing the weight of the words. But Lyra's eyes widened immediately, her hand hovering in the air as if frozen. A soft gasp escaped her lips, gentle but filled with awe. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You feel what I have always dreamed of." James froze. His heart pounded. Wait, what? No. I didn't mean, but Lyra had already sensed it. In Thalaran culture, mental signals were far more powerful than words. To them, what James had thought was not just a fleeting worry. It was a declaration, a connection of soul and mind. And now Lyra's body language shifted, a mixture of reverence and joy. Her hands hovered over his as if she wanted to touch, to seal something invisible but sacred. James blinked, panic rising. He didn't know how to explain that his thought had been casual, almost accidental. I wasn't declaring anything. I was just thinking. Lyra tilted her head, studying him with those silver eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. James, your mind is open to me. We must honor this. In my world, such honesty is the greatest gift. To refuse it would bring dishonor. James swallowed hard. Honor? Lyra, it's not like that. I didn't. Her gaze softened, but the tension remained. James, you cannot hide your truth. It is clear. Your heart has spoken even when your voice has not. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling both foolish and trapped. This is insane. I'm human. I can't just bond like this. It's not real. It's a mistake. But as he looked at her, he noticed the gentle seriousness in her posture, the quiet expectation in her eyes. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a moment that mattered deeply in her culture. And James realized something terrifying. Words wouldn't help. No matter how much he protested, Lyra believed what she had felt in his mind, and that belief was stronger than anything he could say. He took a shaky breath. Lyra, I like you as a friend. That's all I meant. Please, She shook her head softly, her expression unreadable to him yet filled with patience. James, friendship is not the same as the bond your mind has offered. This is a connection of souls. It cannot be ignored. James felt the weight of her words. He wanted to run, to hide, but he also felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest, a strange warmth, a curiosity, a longing that scared him more than fear itself. Maybe there's more here than I understand. He looked at her silver eyes shining like twin moons, and for the first time he wondered if this accident, this mind-reading mistake, was not entirely a mistake at all. The next morning, James woke to find Lyra waiting outside his apartment door. She stood tall and calm, but there was an air of ceremony about her, something he didn't understand. In her hands she held a set of glowing symbols and delicate cloths, intricate patterns he could barely comprehend. We must perform the binding, she said softly, her voice steady yet carrying a weight he could feel in his chest. James froze, his mind spinning. Binding? Wait, what do you mean? I didn't mean anything. Please, Lyra, this is a mistake. Lyra tilted her head, the silver light in her eyes shimmering. James, your thoughts were clear. The connection is real. To ignore it would dishonor both of us. In Thalara, this is sacred. We cannot turn away from what the mind has shared. James felt his pulse race. He didn't know how to explain human thought, how to make her understand that his mind had wandered, that he hadn't meant to declare anything. I was just thinking about being lonely. That's all. It doesn't mean... I don't even... Lyra held up a hand not unkindly but with finality. James, in my world the heart cannot lie. The mind reveals what words often hide. You cannot undo what you have shared. But you can choose honesty in the next step. He took a shaky breath and ran a hand through his hair. Panic and disbelief swirled inside him like a storm. How did this happen? He thought. I just wanted a friend. Now I'm, what? Bound to her forever? And yet, as he looked at Lyra, standing there in the morning sunlight, her posture solemn but gentle, he realized something even stranger. He didn't entirely mind her closeness. There was something comforting in her presence, something that stirred a strange warmth in his chest. He hadn't planned it, but he had begun to care for her in ways he didn't fully understand. James tried reasoning aloud. Lyra, can't we just... I don't know. Talk about this. Can't we figure out a way to... I need time. I'm human, we don't... But Lyra shook her head. Time will not change the truth you have shared, but understanding can grow. The bond is not only about love, it is about trust, honesty, and courage. If you are afraid, it is natural. I do not wish to force you. I wish only for truth. Her words, calm yet firm, made James realize that no argument would sway her. She didn't just believe she understood him, she did. He felt exposed in a way that frightened him. yet also made him strangely alive. For the first time in years, he realized that being human meant vulnerability, pure, raw, and unavoidable. Over the next few hours, James tried everything. He joked awkwardly, tried to distract her with stories of Earth, even feigned clumsiness to make her laugh. Lyra only smiled softly, patient, as if she already knew his heart better than he did himself. By midday, James had reached a quiet surrender. He didn't fully understand the Thalaran rules, nor did he want to reject them outright. But he also couldn't promise feelings he didn't yet fully feel. He felt torn between fear and curiosity, hesitation and desire. Lyra reached for his hand, a simple gesture yet charged with meaning. James, whatever your heart chooses, it is enough. Do not hide from yourself. Do not hide from me. The mind reveals your truth, but your heart decides the journey. James looked at her, her eyes shimmering with patient understanding, and felt an ache in his chest. He realized then that this was bigger than culture, bigger than rules. This was about connection, about two beings daring to reach beyond the familiar. And though he didn't know how it would end, he also realized he didn't want to turn away. Something inside him whispered, maybe this is not a mistake. Maybe this is the beginning. Days passed, and James found himself caught in a storm of emotions he didn't know how to navigate. Lyra's presence filled his apartment, the city outside seeming quieter whenever she was near. She moved gracefully, spoke softly, and always seemed to sense the smallest flicker of thought in his mind. It was unsettling at first, but also comforting. James liked her. He liked the way she listened, the way she laughed at little things, the way her eyes seemed to shine with understanding. But he didn't know if what he felt was the same as the bond her culture expected. He feared it too, the responsibility of a connection he hadn't chosen, a promise he hadn't fully understood. Late one night, he sat on the balcony, staring at the sky. Lyra sat beside him, her hand brushing against his shoulder occasionally. James's mind wandered, as it often did, into that secret, quiet place he rarely shared with anyone. I don't know what I feel, but I like her. I think I like her more than I should. But what if I ruin everything? What if this is just a mistake? Lyra, sensing the hesitation and fear in him, spoke softly. James, your mind hesitates. That is natural. Even the strongest feelings can be uncertain. But hesitation is not rejection. It is only the heart learning. James swallowed hard. Her words pierced through the wall he had built around his feelings. He realized that he had been running from something he wanted more than he admitted. He wanted her close. He wanted to feel this strange connection, even if he didn't fully understand it. And yet, the fear of the unknown, the weight of Thalaran culture pressed down on him. He remembered the first moment she had sensed his thoughts, the accident that had changed everything. If he had known then what it would mean, he might have pulled back, hidden his loneliness deeper. But now he felt something else, a longing he could no longer ignore. He started, voice trembling. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what your world expects, what your bond means. I'm afraid I'll mess it up. Lyra reached out, her silver hand gently touching his. The warmth of her touch spread through him, calming the fear that had been tightening his chest. James, you do not need to know everything. You only need to be honest. Your heart will guide you. Even if it trembles, even if it fears, it speaks the truth. He looked at her, seeing patience and understanding, seeing hope mirrored in her liquid eyes. He realized that this, whatever it was not just about obligation. It was about choice. He could resist and lose this connection, or he could embrace it and discover something new, something extraordinary. For hours he wrestled with his thoughts. He thought of friendship, of loneliness, of the small moments he had shared with her. Her laughter, the way she looked at the stars, the quiet confidence she carried. And deep down, he felt the stirrings of something powerful. Care, affection, and a tentative love that frightened him more than anything else. By dawn, James had made a decision, not a declaration, not a full understanding of love, but a willingness to try. He didn't know the outcome, didn't know if he could fully meet the expectations of Thalaran culture. But he knew he wanted to explore this bond, to see where it could lead, to allow himself to feel without hiding. Lyra leaned her head slightly against his shoulder, sensing his resolve. James, whatever your heart chooses, I will honor it. Fear is natural, but courage is your gift. The human heart is brave even when uncertain. It is extraordinary. And in that quiet moment, as the first light of morning brushed the city skyline, James felt it too, the extraordinary gift of being human. The courage to care, to feel, to risk everything for connection. The courage to embrace the unknown and maybe, just maybe, to discover love. It was late in the evening when James found himself once again on the balcony, the city lights sparkling like distant stars below. Lyra stood beside him, calm and radiant as ever, her silver eyes reflecting the night sky. He felt the familiar weight of her gaze on him, soft but insistent, as if she could see every hidden thought in his mind. James's chest tightened. He had spent days wrestling with fear, uncertainty, and the strange growing warmth he felt toward her. He realized that running from his feelings was no longer an option. Something inside him whispered that he had to speak, to face the truth, not just for her, but for himself. "Lyra," he began, voice shaky but steady. She turned to him, a faint smile playing on her lips, her eyes glimmering with patience. I didn't mean to declare anything before. That night it was an accident. I was thinking about my loneliness, nothing else, but—" He paused, swallowing hard, struggling to find the right words. "But?" Lyra prompted softly. James took a deep breath. "But maybe I do want something more. I don't fully understand it yet, and I don't know what this means in your culture, but I want to try. I want to see where this connection can go. Even if I'm scared, I don't want to hide from it anymore." For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the gentle hum of the city below. Then Lyra stepped closer, her glowing hand brushing his arm. "James, your honesty is enough. Your heart does not need to be perfect, only true. The courage to speak it, that is more than many can do." James felt a warmth spread through him, a quiet relief mingled with excitement. He had expected fear, tension, or misunderstanding. Instead, he felt acceptance, understanding, and something that resembled hope. The weight he had carried for days seemed to lift, replaced by a strange exhilaration. Lyra's voice broke the silence again, soft and melodic. "We will take this step together. You do not need to know everything about the future. You only need to choose honesty, and that is enough. Even humans, even fragile humans, can be extraordinary when they are brave." James smiled, his nervousness easing. There was something profound in her words, something that made him see himself differently. For so long he had believed that being human meant weakness, fear, hesitation, and mistakes. But now he realized it meant courage, the courage to feel, to connect, to step into the unknown without knowing what would happen next. He reached out tentatively, his hand brushing against hers. Lyra's fingers wrapped around his, firm yet gentle, and a strange energy seemed to flow between them. James had never felt anything like it, warmth, trust, and the undeniable pull of something larger than either of them. I'm ready," James said quietly, almost to himself, but Lyra heard. Her eyes shimmered, brighter than the stars above. "James, your heart is extraordinary. Not because it is flawless, but because it dares to care even in fear. That is the gift of humanity. That is why your kind is remarkable." He laughed softly, a mixture of disbelief and wonder. "I never thought being human would feel like this." Lyra's smile deepened, radiant and sincere. "It is in your nature to surprise, to endure, to love without certainty. That is your strength. That is why you are worthy of this connection." For the first time, James allowed himself to believe that this moment was real, that the bond forming between them was not a mistake, and that he could embrace it fully. The night sky stretched endlessly above, but he didn't feel small. He felt alive, connected, and human in the most extraordinary way possible. And as he looked into Lyra's shimmering eyes, he realized that sometimes accidents lead to discoveries far greater than intention, discoveries that could change everything, even a human's quiet, ordinary life forever. Days turned into weeks, and life for James and Lyra settled into a rhythm both strange and beautiful. James woke each morning to find her quietly observing the city, her silver eyes reflecting sunlight and streetlights alike. She asked questions, not only about humans and Earth, but about him, about his thoughts, his fears, and the small joys he often ignored. James realized he had never been so seen before. With Lyra, he didn't have to hide behind politeness or small talk. She understood the quiet parts of him, the thoughts he tried to bury, the loneliness he carried for years, and slowly he began to trust her, not just with words, but with the essence of who he was. They explored the city together, Lyra fascinated by the mundane things James took for granted. The aroma of coffee from a street cart, the laughter of children chasing a stray ball, the way streetlights glimmered on puddles after rain. James in turn found himself learning from her world, the grace in her movements, the careful patience with which she observed life, the beauty of a mind that could feel without speaking. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, James realized something extraordinary. "Lyra, I never thought I would feel this. Calm," he said quietly. "Being around you. It makes the world feel different, lighter." She turned to him, her eyes soft yet radiant. "James, humans have a gift that many underestimate. You feel deeply, even when it is uncomfortable. You struggle and yet you continue. That is courage." "That is extraordinary," James smiled, feeling warmth rise in his chest. He had spent years thinking of himself as ordinary, lonely, awkward, small in a vast universe. But Lyra's words, her belief in him, made him see himself differently. Humanity was not weak. It was capable of wonder, of bravery, and of love that crossed worlds. As the days passed, their bond grew. Not rushed, but steady. James began to share his small routines, his favorite books, his music. Lyra laughed at human jokes, sometimes misunderstanding the humor, yet always smiling with a sincerity that made him feel lighter. She shared stories of Thalera, of rituals, of how their culture revered honesty, courage, and trust. In turn, James learned to appreciate her world, a culture so different yet so filled with depth, with values he admired. He realized that their differences were not obstacles, they were opportunities. Each new thing he learned about her, each small gesture, each shared moment built a bridge between their worlds. He could feel the invisible connection growing, not forced but natural, like two rivers joining to flow together. One rainy afternoon, Lyra reached for his hand as they walked through a quiet park. The droplets slid down her glowing skin, and yet she moved with elegance, unbothered by the wet. "James," she said softly, "I sense your heart has grown stronger. You embrace uncertainty, yet you care. That is rare, even for humans. You are remarkable." James looked at her, his chest tight with emotion. I never knew I could feel this way," he admitted. "You make me want to be braver, to see life differently. You make me human in a way I didn't know I could be." Lyra smiled, her eyes sparkling like twin stars. "That is the gift of connection. You give me trust and I give you understanding. Together we learn, we grow, we endure. That is the beauty of both our worlds coming together." And in that moment, James felt it, the true power of humanity. Not strength of body nor cleverness of mind, but the courage to feel, to care, and to embrace the unknown. With Lyra beside him, he realized that even ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things when they chose honesty, empathy, and love. As the rain fell softly around them, James squeezed her hand, silently promising to continue this journey, whatever it might bring, and Lyra, sensing his resolve, pressed her glowing palm gently against his, sealing their bond in a way words could never capture. The universe felt infinite, yet James no longer felt small. With Lyra, he was part of something larger, a connection that spanned worlds, proving that humanity, fragile and imperfect, could shine brighter than any star. The night was quiet, the city beneath them alive with tiny lights and distant sounds. James and Lyra stood together on the balcony, their hands intertwined, feeling the gentle pulse of the universe around them. The journey they had shared over the past weeks had changed him in ways he could not have imagined. He had gone from fear and hesitation to a quiet courage he had never known. Lyra's silver eyes reflected the moonlight, shimmering with understanding and warmth. "James," she said softly, "you have embraced what many fear, the unknown, the connection, the truth within yourself. You chose to be human, fully human, with all your doubts and imperfections. That is extraordinary." James swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He had spent years believing that being human meant weakness, fragile emotions, clumsy actions, and endless uncertainty. But in her eyes, he saw strength, the kind of strength that came from honesty, courage, and the willingness to care even when it frightened him. I never thought I could feel like this," he admitted quietly. "I was scared at first. I didn't understand your world, your culture, and I didn't know how to live up to it. But now I think I understand a little. Being human isn't about avoiding fear, it's about facing it, and I want to face it with you." Lyra smiled, the silver glow of her skin softening in the moonlight. James, that is more than anyone could ask. Your heart is real, and that honesty, that courage, it is what makes humans remarkable. You see the world not just with your eyes, but with your heart. That is why your kind shines. James felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling he could not name, but that made his chest ache with happiness. He realized that humanity, in its fragility, had a power all its own, the power to connect, to endure, and to love beyond reason or understanding. And with Lyra by his side, he felt that power more strongly than ever. He looked at her, taking in every detail, the way her silver hair caught the light, the soft glow of her eyes, the gentle curve of her smile. Lyra, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what challenges we will face, what obstacles may come between us. But I know this, I want to be here. With you. Learning, growing, trying, being human with you. Lyra's hand tightened around his. And I will be here, James. Through uncertainty, through joy, through fear. We will face it together as equals, as friends, as something more. Our worlds may differ, but the heart does not lie. The bond we share, it is real, and it will guide us. For the first time in his life, James felt a sense of true peace. He realized that courage was not always about grand acts or daring feats. Sometimes it was about being honest with oneself, about risking vulnerability, about opening one's heart to someone else. And in that simple act, humanity shone brighter than any technology, any weapon, any achievement. He leaned closer to Lyra, feeling the warmth of her presence, the energy that seemed to flow from her very being. You taught me something important, he said softly. Being human, it's not about being perfect. It's about daring to care even when it's hard, even when it's scary. That is extraordinary. Lyra nodded, her eyes glimmering like distant stars. Yes, James, and you have embraced it. That is why your mind, your heart, your humanity, they are beautiful. You are extraordinary even in your ordinary ways. That is the strength of your kind. James smiled, feeling the full weight of her words settle in his chest. For so long he had thought he was ordinary, invisible, unremarkable. Now standing beside Lyra, he realized that being human meant more than he had ever imagined. It meant courage, empathy, resilience, and the capacity to love without guarantee. As the night deepened, James and Lyra stood together, hands intertwined, hearts open, gazing at the stars. In that quiet, infinite moment, James understood something profound. Humanity, fragile and imperfect, could shine brighter than any alien power, any cosmic wonder, any force in the universe. And in that realization, he felt truly alive. Fully human, fully courageous, fully extraordinary. He was ordinary yet extraordinary. And with Lyra by his side, he knew they could face anything the universe would throw at them together.